You're listening to The Art of Imperfect Adulting. I'm your host, Amy Stone. Here, I share stories from real people navigating the adventure that I call adulting. Are you ready? Me too. Let's do this. Hello, friends. In this episode, I'm going to introduce you to Monica McKitterick. And just want to say that is a name that is a lot of fun for me to say. It's got alliteration. It's got a ton of consonants. I just think it's a lot of fun to say. What we talk about in this episode is how Monica was part of a televised entrepreneurial contest. Not for nothing, but the word entrepreneur is the opposite of a word like McKitterick for me. I have to be very careful to say it because it's full of vowels. That's not the point. Getting back on topic, Monica was on a reality TV show for entrepreneurs. It's called The Blocks. And so we talk about how she did that. We talk about how she got there. Why she wanted to go on a show like this at all. We talk about what it was like to be a part of the making of the show. And then what was the impact in her life of making that choice to throw her hat into the ring as a contestant. Spoiler, not spoiler, the impact is probably some of exactly what you would expect. And also, though, a lot of what happened might surprise you. So this is a great story. It's lots of fun. I think you're going to love it. So let's get to the interview already, shall we? Monica McKitterick, welcome to The Art of Imperfect Adulting. I'm happy you're here. Are you ready for a fun chat?
Absolutely. I'm super stoked to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. I start all of my conversations asking my guests what part of the world they call home. Where are you these days?
I am in Austin, Texas area, just the northern side in the burbs.
That is lovely. I've been to Austin many times. Super fun place to be. Next warm up question. What is one way that you like to recognize or honor something celebratory?
I love events and traveling. It is like my love language. And so we no longer buy gifts. We don't buy things for each other in my family. We buy experiences. And that can be a soccer game or a trip to Europe or wherever that lies in between, a trip to get some ice cream. But I'm all about the memories.
I love that. One of my favorite, I've been married more than 2 decades, and one of my favorite funny marital gifting questions is a long time ago. I was like, hey, this holiday's coming up. What do you want gifts? And it's hard to buy gifts sometimes for people when you live together and you like, right? You have the things you need and everything is there.
Mhm.
And my husband was like, well, why don't you buy me a gift card for this store? And I was like, okay, that makes no sense. I'm going to take your money, our money, and I'm going to go and buy you our money on a card, and then you're going to just go to the store. Just go to the store.
Right?
I was like, he's like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. He's like, but I like shopping in the store. And I'm like, right, I get that. Totally. Do you want me to just wrap up a box? Like I can do that.
Yeah, just leave out the middleman there. And yeah, that's a struggle with gifts, especially with my husband and I, because everything is at our beck and call.
Yeah.
And so if we want something, we just buy it anyway. And so it's really hard to find things that we want. And so we just go do things instead.
I love it. I love it. All right. Topic of the day, not how hard it is to buy people presents these days, but instead, once upon a time, not so long ago, you were part of a televised entrepreneurial contest. And we're going to talk about the choices that you made that got you there, what happened during the show, and how that's impacting you now today. So let's start with this. Tell us what the show is so that we all know what we're talking about. And if you remember, I'd love to know how you became aware of the opportunity to be on the show.
Absolutely. So the good news is I have a really good memory, so I got that, no problem. So the show is called The Blocks. It's spelled Blox. It is a entrepreneur competition that was created by Wes Bergman, and he was back. He was on The Challenge on MTV. So I'm dating
Okay.
myself right now, but he's also been on several different reality TV shows. But he helps. He kind of runs an incubator program for business owners, like kind of takes them under his wing and then teaches them things. So I was on season 18 of The Blocks, and you do it in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I first heard about it because one of my patients came to me. He had an issue, and he's like, "You have to fix this because I'm going to record this show." And I was like, "What show are you going to be on?" And so he tells me all about it. And so of course I go home and watch it. And so I watched, I think season 11 was the one that was most recently released at that time. And so I watched all 8 episodes of it and I learned so much about being a business owner. And I actually took things from that show and applied it to my practice, like in minutes. And so it was really great. And then he went on the show and he came back and he was just like talking it up like it was the best thing he's ever done. So this lovely gentleman owns a yoga studio. He has an MBA. And he said, Monica, I learned more in those 5 days about running a business than I did in all of my MBA study. He's like, you have to go. You have to go. And so I applied to be on the show. They get somewhere between 10 to 14,000 applications per season, I guess. But he kind of put a plug in for me. He like sent a
Oh,
message to
okay.
his people and was like, "Hey, she should be on it." And so I interviewed and got on the show and went to record it. Um, and it was exhausting, not gonna lie. It
I
was
will get
it
to
was
that in a second
it was a
about the
challenge, but
actual.
it was
I
great.
believe it. I believe it. I want to know all the details about that, but I want to rewind a little bit and set the stage of who you were and what was going on before we got there. So let's get to know younger you before all of this happened. Like, what was life for you like a year before you were thinking about this? Like, what was the job you were doing, the business you were running? If you were already an entrepreneur, what was home and family like? What was life like?
Yeah, so a year before that, I was living my best life, but kind of stressed out a little bit. So I started my own business in April of 2019, and it is a direct primary care office, which is a membership-based primary care office. And
Okay.
so I started it with the intent to just give myself a job. I was just going to be able to take care of patients the way that I wanted to and not how insurance companies dictated it anymore, because I was done treating my patients like cattle. Well, fast forward, the business continued to grow and we continued to add locations and more providers. And so, about 6 months prior to going on the show, I actually stepped out of patient care because I had opened my third location for my practice and I couldn't continue taking care of patients and growing and running the business. So, I had been a quote unquote CEO for about 6 months when I went on the show. I have always had the most supportive husband. So we've been married for 11 years and he is just my rock. He is a cybersecurity guy with Amazon Web Services. Just like he's awesome.
Okay.
I will tell you, he has an MBA. And so when I went to him with my idea to open my own practice, he was a little skeptical to say the least.
Ah.
But I Googled how to write a business plan because ChatGPT wasn't a thing back then and convinced him that it was in fact something I wanted to do. So I was in a good place. Like my business was growing, but I was just learning what being a CEO actually meant because I have zero education in business, accounting, marketing, any of that business stuff. I have 3 degrees in nursing, not a single thing in the world of business. And so I've just been winging it. And then I went from provider to CEO, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but let's do it. And
It's one
so,
of
yeah,
the most famous like disconnects between like studying and doing the job. They talk about like and your degrees you said were in nursing, but it's one of the famous things. It's like doctors go to school to learn how to be doctors, not necessarily how to run a practice and run all the things.
100%.
And so that's a really interesting thing. I do have a question. So you are saying direct care, direct primary care,
Mhm.
like so is that the same as like a concierge doctor or is that different?
Similar, but different. So in the concierge world, the providers typically charge 1,200-ish dollars a month. It's usually like 12 to $15,000 a year. And they have very limited number of patients, and they also bill your insurance.
Yep.
Where direct primary care is typically under $100 a month, a lot of the same benefits like unlimited access, same day appointments, a relationship, you can text people, but I want nothing to do with your insurance company. We don't run
Okay.
insurance claims at all. We take patients with or without insurance, regardless of what that status is. We can use your insurance for things outside of the office, like if you need an MRI or you need to go see a specialist, you need a surgery, that's where your insurance will come into play. But I don't want your insurance company to tell me how to take care of you and vice versa. Like, I think you and I should get to have that conversation as opposed to some guy who sits at the headquarters of Blue Cross Blue Shield who's like, you can only talk about this many things at that appointment. It's like, no, we're going to talk about all the things. Okay.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So it's a subscription or a membership. Like you
Hmm.
join, you become
Yep.
you become a client, and then you're defining the relationship, and you don't bill any insurance for anything that's happening in your office.
Mhm.
That is very interesting. Okay, so I didn't know those words, and now I've learned them. All right, so
You're not alone.
it's one of the reasons I love these conversations because I learn all these things. And actually, before our conversation today, I was Googling you because you said you were on a TV show and I was doing the research. We'll call that guest research.
Love
And
it.
so, so you shared with us like what stage that you were in the business. You had a business and you
Mhm.
stepped into it. You were running it as a CEO. What was your hope or your dream or your wish that would come out of being a part of this incubator TV show?
Yeah, I just wanted to learn what I don't know because that's what I realized when I stepped into the CEO role is I didn't know what I didn't know. It was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? How do I navigate these things from personnel to HR issues to payroll to how to write SOPs? Like there was so much of the business that was in my head that had to then go on paper and I had to learn how to delegate and I had to learn how to let other people do their things. But I had no idea like what I was actually supposed to be doing as a CEO. And so I really went to learn some basic things. And also for the networking. Like I was in a room with 120 other business owners.
Okay.
That type of knowledge in one room is just like nothing you can ever pay for. And so I was just really excited to really get to know those people and hopefully learn something that I could then apply. Because every season that I had watched, which I watched 11 through, I think 15 had come out right before I went, I learned something from it. And so I was just hoping to learn more things and then apply them to my business.
All right, very good. So, confession, I have not watched the show. And I
Many
was
have not.
actually right before this, I was totally unaware it existed. I'm like, that meme that's like, I'm today's days old when I learned about
Yep.
the blocks. So the reason I share that is because I think some of my questions might be like, why are you asking that? But the truth is, I don't really know. So
No worries.
share about what it was like. Like how long ago was this filming and what was it like to actually go through the actual experience of being in Tulsa, Oklahoma for a week? Is that what it was?
Yeah, so the recording was for 5 days and it was in August of 2024 and
Okay.
it was released in August of 2025. So it was a whole year from the time I went to recording to the time it was actually released. And so every day is a competition. So you show up, you go to breakfast, and then from 10 to 12 is a 2 hour lecture on some topic of business. And ours were everything from copywriting and design to tech stacks to how to raise money. And so you do this 2 hour lecture, then you go to lunch, then you come back and they give you your assignment. And all 120 people get split up into different pods. So between 10 to 12 people in each pod. And you get an assignment that is you have 15 minutes to prepare a 3 minute speech on fill in the blank. And it's based off of that topic of the day. So you all race off to these rooms and you have a little notebook and you're writing, like, what am I going to say? And then everyone gets up. Like after 15 minutes, you're like, hands down, close your books, no more any of it. And then you get up and you present your 3 minute pitch on whatever the topic was of the day. And then after that, you do a consult with the judge. So there are 10, 11 judges. I'm not sure exactly. Um, and so after everyone does their pitch, then you sit down with the judge and you have a conversation about the day's topic and you get rated. So in every pod, there's whoever got the most points based off of their presentation all the way down. And then they give 3 bonus points to the people that they felt understood the material the most in the consults. So that takes your entire afternoon. Then you go to dinner. And then that evening, you go back to the main stage. And the top person in each pod is called on stage for another challenge where it can be a pop quiz, it can be another presentation, it can just be questions about the day that you just have to answer on a stage in front of 120 people. And then at the end of the day, there's a bunch of tallying of points, but you never actually know. They don't tell you the tally. They do have the top 3 people each day get called out and they have to wear these red shirts that say Bloxer on it. And it's kind of like a Target where people are like,
Okay.
oh, you're the winner. And so that happens for 5 days in a row. And then on the final night, they crown a winner, first, second, third place, and they get checks. So the winner gets $10,000.
So it's a legit like contest where they're scoring you as you go through. It's 5 days, 120 people. That's a big field. What and was the industry like? So your business is very specific, a
Mhm.
medical office, high professional. Was there a lot of variety in the 120 people?
Oh,
Was it like everything from like, the
it was
hot dog
everywhere.
cart to okay.
Absolutely. There were people doing power washing. There were people building metal signs. There were dog groomers. There were therapists. There were people doing some things that I was like, what?
Right.
Huh?
Yep,
I,
sure.
okay. All right. You do your thing, my
Yep.
friend. But yes, they were people from walks of all of the worlds. There were a few other medical professionals there. There were definitely some mental health therapists. But yeah, it was all over the place.
So every industry, everything. How long were the days? Like 12-hour days?
Oh. So breakfast started at 8:30 and we were usually done by 9 at night, but then there
Okay.
were oftentimes like special like interview things you had to go do or something like I mean it was a solid 10 to 12 hours every day. And that's if you opted out of the like post-day party
Right. Okay.
because
Fair enough.
but there was a curfew. You had to be in your room by midnight.
Oh, there was that's so funny. A group of 120 adults, but you've got a curfew. That's really
Yeah,
that's
let's just say they made those rules because bad things have happened in previous seasons. So,
I
rules
give
are made
that
because people screwed something up.
that's right. The only reason, what's the joke? The only reason there's not a rule against the elephant in the cafeteria is because nobody's done it yet. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So did your competitive spirit like come out in the middle of this? Like you said that you went primarily to learn and you wanted the
Mhm.
experience of learning. And I was poking there to see if there was like a bigger secret dream of like competition. But did you have hopes of being the top dog or going after the prize?
I mean, I would have never admitted that because then it's like an expectation. But of course, everyone goes to a competition to win it.
That's what I
Did
would
would
have
I
said.
Yeah, would I say that out loud? No. I'd be like, I'm just going for the experience and we'll see what happens. And then if I win, awesome. But then there's no like expectation, but the overachiever in me and my ridiculous fear of failure, absolutely, I was going there to win, but I would have never admitted that before I went.
As a strategic, like you don't want to psych yourself out or have the
Right.
expectation or the pressure. Some people feel a lot of pressure, like claiming the I wanna be the winner. But spoiler alert, you do win.
I did. Yes. So night number one, I got on stage and I finished in first place.
Okay.
And that was kind of like wait, did that just happen? Like it was kind of like, oh, this is imposter syndrome. It was just a fluke, no big deal, right? And then night two, I did not get on stage. So I was like, cool, I at least did it once. It's fine, no big deal. But at the end of night two, I was still wearing that red shirt because I had scored enough points. I just wasn't the top one in my pod that day.
Okay.
I'd still scored enough points that I was still in the top three. So day three, I'm wearing this red shirt again. And I get on stage again on night three. And once again, I finish in first place.
Wow.
So it's at that moment that all panic is I'm really stressed out at this point because this is no longer fun anymore. I'm not just here to learn. I could possibly win this, right? So I'm wearing this red shirt again on day four. Day four, I do not go on stage, but there's another woman up there who's now been on stage one night more than me. And so at the end of night four, I'm still wearing the red shirt, but I know that this other lady has got to be ahead of me, but they never tell us the points. They never actually give
Mm.
us the number. So going into day five, I have this realization that I could wear this red shirt, which by the way, I took so many clothes. I typically don't pack a lot, but I did because I knew I was going to be on TV. But
Right.
instead, I wore this ridiculously non-attractive red athletic type shirt every day for 5 days. By the end of it, I was wearing it as a scarf. So,
Mm.
um, but I realized that I could wear this red shirt for 5 days and not actually win anything. Like I could finish in fourth place. So it's at this point that I'm like, if I don't get on stage on day 5, what am I going to do? Can you
Yeah.
imagine? Like being wearing this stupid red shirt and then not winning.
Yeah.
So, yes, I did get on stage night 4. Or on night 5. I finished in fourth place that night, which then did give me enough points to ultimately win the $10,000 check.
That's so much fun. Did it feel good?
It was amazing. I mean, it was the first time I like legitimately felt validated as a business owner. It was the first time. And at this point, my business was making $1.5 million a year. I mean, I was doing it. I just couldn't admit to myself that I was doing it. And that was the first time I was like, oh, maybe I do know what I'm doing.
That's really interesting, actually. That's really interesting because, like, the normal validation for an entrepreneur is in dollars,
Mhm.
in success in dollars. But it is an echo chamber. It's an isolating place to be. You don't have a
Absolutely.
lot of feedback. But the numbers are pretty easy for scorekeeping. It's like this is working and this is not.
Yeah,
So there,
absolutely.
so there we go. So let's talk about this was a year ago that you did this. What impact did participating and have
Mm,
on your business outside of the visibility and publicity? Because that didn't happen right away, but the
right.
experience of being there, being surrounded by these other 100 business people and this team of people that's very competitive and growth oriented, like
Mhm.
knowledge and competition. What did that have? What impact did that have on you and the business?
Yeah, it made my overachiever self go into overdrive. I started just going insane. Like maybe I should franchise. Maybe I need to open 5 more clinics this year. Like I just need to grow bigger, faster, stronger because that's what you do. To the point that I became physically ill. Like I burnt in like probably within 4 to 6 weeks after coming home from the show. I was like on this high. I was like, I won this show, and now I have to prove to the world that I won it because I know what I'm doing.
Okay.
And it was exhausting. And so after a lot of therapy, crying, and journaling, I had a real like come to whoever you feel is the ultimate person in the world moment where I really had to redefine what my definition of success was because I was chasing what I thought everyone else thought I should do. Of course, I can open 5 more clinics. Of course, I can do these things because that's what you do. You're at 1.5 million in revenue. You need to be at 2.6 next year, right? You
Yeah.
always have to keep going and you have to go exponentially. You can't just like follow the line. And then I realized that wasn't at all what I wanted. And I realized that success to me is spending time with my family and being home by 5 p.m. and watching my 10-year-old grow up, not $2.5 million in revenue. That doesn't do it for me. That's not my idea of success. And so I finally admitted to my husband out loud that I didn't want to open any more clinics and I thought he was going to be devastated. And he said, okay. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, you opened this practice so that you would have more control of your time and you're losing that. So, yeah, of course. So I decided I wasn't going to open any more clinics, but then I had to figure out how do I make a bigger impact in the world? If I'm not going to open all these clinics and be like the best primary care provider in all of Central Texas, what am I going to do? And so I pivoted and I had some great friends and confidants and mentors that I wrote a book instead.
Okay.
So I I can't open all the direct primary care offices that we need across this country. But there are enough healthcare providers out there that are done with the burnt out insurance-based system that they need to do this. I don't want to be responsible for their success. I'm not going to franchise and be like, yeah, let me show you how to do this. Instead, I'm going to let them make the decision, let them invest in themselves. So I wrote a book for healthcare providers about is this for you? It's not a how-to book, it's a should you book. Is opening a DPC practice, are you the right person for it? And then at the end of the book, if the answer is yes, then I've created an online course that will take you from idea to launch. The how to open an LLC, how to get a logo, how to do blah, 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 blah. And so, yeah. And then I offer consulting because people just need help to get this
Sure.
done. And so that's how I'm going to make a bigger impact in the world. So, yeah, this show, as much as it was great to win this, it literally changed the trajectory of my life.
So that's really interesting. When you were talking about the grueling schedule for 5 days, the very real thought that was in my head that I didn't ask was I wondered if you got sick because those super intense experiences that are so long and they're physically grueling and they're also emotionally taxing. There's like
Hmm.
that weird like kickback that happens. It's like, okay, then you get on the plane and 2 days later you have a cold because you've like worn yourself out. But you had sort of an extended version of that because you won, and then you had an adrenaline rush trying to sort of keep that momentum from the entrepreneurial incubator bubble
Yeah.
going for a while, and then you had a reckoning.
Hmm.
Um, so I recap that in the sequence.
Perfectly.
All right, so I want to tell you a little bit more about the mindset shift that you went to. You mentioned these things, but I want to make sure we touch on all of them because I thought it was really interesting. You shared that winning was a milestone that you'd never imagined,
Mhm.
but that it put you in a spot to stop and reevaluate what success means. And you mentioned that, and that it's not about the title of the prize, but about the freedom you've built, the impact you're making, and the life you get to live on your own terms. That experience taught me, the experience of being in the show taught you that their worth is not defined by outside validation, but how aligned your work is with your values. So you talked about redefining success and what that meant in terms of time with your family. What does it mean in terms of freedom? Because that's another
Mm.
thing that came up. Like, so in your mindset of this, how does that tie into your values and definition of freedom? And the question behind the question is, when did you realize you got to define these things for yourself?
Yeah. So I was really struggling because every clinic that I open takes more of me, more of my time, more of my management. As much as the day-to-day runs, it's still a lot of work, especially from the marketing side and the education side. And I finally just was like, this is not what I want to do. I can't keep giving another piece of me and another piece of me and another piece of me. And so that was the big shift of what am I doing with my life? Right? I was 40. I just turned 40 not too long before that. And I was really trying to figure out like what does this mean?
What am I going
And
to be when I grow up? I'm 40. When do I
exactly,
grow up?
right?
Yeah.
Well, and funny enough, when I met my husband, I told him I wanted to retire at 35. Yeah,
It's a good goal.
it was a great goal. And then I opened my business at 35. So,
It's a different
not quite
definition
the
of
plan.
retirement.
Absolutely. But I mean, I love to travel. I love to go do things. And so my freedom is not having my entire business rely on me. I need to be able to leave for 2 weeks, not check my email, not do anything, and know that the ball is going to keep rolling, the train's going to keep going forward, and I'm not going to come back to any giant fires, right?
Okay.
And so filling the people that I employ with the right people was huge for me. And so now I'm able to do that. And it is the most freedom I've ever experienced in my life that I can book a vacation at any time I want. And I know that my business will continue moving forward. That is like the ultimate freedom to me is that I can still have purpose. I can still work when I want to, which I do, right? I take
Yep.
3 to 4 trips a year, not gonna lie. But the fact that I can do that is probably the thing I'm most proud of is that I've built a business that can actually function without me.
No, that's huge. I one of my early guests who she was talking about something and she just said something off the cuff. She said freedom is the ultimate flex. And
100%.
and people define freedom in different ways, but it feels true. It feels true.
Hmm.
Like that is a really solid thing. So do you think that you would ever do another competition like this in the future?
I don't think so. But the reason, so this is not the first time in my life I've done this, but if I try something for the first time and I like conquer it, I am going to retire as an undefeated champion.
Oh,
Because if I
fair.
go back and I lose the next time, like, right? It's like
Yes.
Peyton Manning. He retired as soon as he won the Super Bowl and he
Yep.
walked away and he left a Super Bowl champion. And it's like, well, Brett Favre, you maybe should have done that, right? Like, maybe that would have been a good idea. And so a couple of times in my life I've been like, okay, I'll try this. And then I like fully conquer it. And so yeah, I don't want to do it again because
Okay.
if I don't win, then that's like a failure. And
Yep.
no, not here for that.
I get that. There was a Seinfeld episode. You might be a little too young for Seinfeld, but George
Oh no, I
Costanza, the
know.
character, and
Yeah.
he's leave on a high note. Like, and he
Mhm.
like goes, he like the people laugh at him at a meeting. He's like, and goodbye. And he walks out. He's like,
Yeah. I'm here for that,
yeah,
right? I will exit my business when it is still thriving. And I mean, I think it'll thrive for decades and centuries long after I am gone. But yeah, I'm all about leaving on the high note. So actually one of the guys I was on the show with, who's a very good friend of mine now, he was like, we got to find another competition. I was like, no way. I'll go on
right.
vacation, but I'm not competing again. Once was
I
enough.
that's it's a good line to know about yourself because the competition can become something you enjoy over and over again. You just want to repeat it and have that like, formula for adrenaline. It can become a fun thing. Okay. So, and we're going to have two more questions, then we'll go to the final questions. How do people find the show when they want to watch
Yeah.
it?
So it releases on Facebook one episode at a time, and it's under Beta Blocks is the
Okay.
name, Betablox. But if you Google the blocks, you'll go to the actual blocks website, which is also betablocks.com, I believe, and you can click on season 18 there and watch all eight if you want.
Okay.
Um, I'm
That's
really in episode two, five, and eight is really where like my parts are. So if you just want to watch me, then go do
that's
that.
how
But
to
no,
do that.
it's great education for anybody who's especially early on, like pre 2 million in revenue. That's really their like focus of the people on the blocks.
Super interesting. All right. So tell us directly how about the business you're running. You've got and the two websites where people can find you after they hear the
Yeah.
show.
So, my direct primary care office is in Central Texas, and it is called Impact Family Wellness. And we are that on every social platform. ImpactFamilyWellness.com is our website. If you have any question about what direct primary care is, go on there, go to the FAQs. You'll see my face on every video explaining what it is. If direct primary care sounds like something you need in your life, but you're not in Central Texas, there are about 3,000 or so offices like mine across the country. Of course, I'm going to tell you mine is the best, but other people are doing it as well. And so you can, if you Google DPC for direct primary care mapper on Google, it will pull up a map of all the offices across the country that are doing this and take you to their websites. For my book and my online course, it is thedpcformula.com, also on the social platforms that way. But you can just email me directly at monica@dpcformula.com. Yeah, just send me a quick email. But we're
Very
kind of
good.
all over the place. I
All
also
over the
have a
place.
very odd last name. So if you just put Monica McKitterick into your Google platform, I'm probably the only one out there. I'm yet to
You
find
do
another.
pop right up. Having
Yeah.
done that today, I will assure people you do pop right up. I will put those links in the show notes for everybody. You have a book, a course, you do consulting, you have resources for people on both of those websites so people can visit that. And I'll put that there. It also goes into the email that I send to my newsletter. The easiest way to get the links for everybody listening is always to be a subscriber at imperfectadulting.com so that I just zap them right to your email box. I say it all the time. All right, Monica, are you ready for the final three questions?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. If somebody is visiting you in your hometown, Austin, where you live, what is one store or restaurant or experience location that you always recommend that they visit during their trip?
Ooh, there's a lot of them in Austin, but Austin is all about some barbecue. And so I would send them to Salt Lick Barbecue because that is my favorite.
It's a big topic of conversation in Texas barbecue.
Absolutely.
It's a big, so Salt Lick Barbecue, there you go. All right. If you were invited onto one of the Blue Origin rocket trips for a quick trip to space, would you go? Yes or no?
No, I have zero desire to get on a small ship and go up to see what the globe. I think I've
Okay.
seen enough pictures, and that sounds frightening to me. I also get very motion sick, and I feel
Oh,
like that propulsion would make me want to lose it.
I
And I
think
don't
so.
need vomit like flying around in a, anti-gravity situation. So I'll keep my
It
feet
is. Yeah.
on this globe.
The
There's
people who
enough to
do
see
it,
here.
The people who do it seem to be happy about it, but I do always think about that. Like the astronauts that go up, they do that grueling training to be ready for it, and then we just like send people up, willy nilly. So yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't. I've asked that question to people a couple of times, and I haven't had anybody give a hearty yes. Like one person was like, if they're gonna give it to me, maybe that's the closest I got. So there we go.
Yeah.
All right, now here's the most controversial question of the day. How do you feel about reality TV dating shows like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, maybe even Love Island? Do you love them? Do you think they're ridiculous? Or do you just not actually think about them at all?
Well, I think they're ridiculous, but I love them. I love to binge watch them, especially with my husband. And part of it is just watching those people makes me feel like such a better human being. Honestly, like the way some of those people act and respond to other people, I'm blown away by humanity at times. I'll tell you, I think Love is Blind is my favorite one.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with it. I think it's hilarious, but also ridiculous. But it is my like guilty pleasure.
I love it. That's such a good answer. All right, that's it. Monica McKitterick, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest today on the show.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you for listening today. I hope that you enjoy the show. And before I go, I want to encourage you to become a bigger part of the conversation. Obviously, subscribe wherever you're listening to the show. Listen to more episodes. That'd be great. Again, please write a review and tell your friends about the show. That truly is a great help for getting the show in front of new people. Okay, but more fun for you yourself, head over to imperfectadulting.com and join the email community. You'll get some free stuff right away, and that way you'll begin to get the emails about the podcast. This includes the links for the special offers from the guests, and it's the only way to get that. Also, if you aren't in the mood to listen, I actually include an article directly in those emails. Whee! Now, if you love this and you crave more time with me, Amy, as a coach, a mentor, or just adultier adult, numero uno, check out The Village. If you have a story you want to share with the listeners, I'd love to hear from you. I have an open application. Just let me know you want it. And that's a wrap for today. Until next time, remember, the journey is the destination. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that, not me. Well, until just now, I did just say it. But what I want you to hear today is that if your adulting journey isn't going the way you expected, that may not mean that you're lost. It may just mean that you're on your way. This is Amy Stone, signing off. The Imperfect Adulting podcast is created and produced by Amy Stone and Amy Says So. Anything expressed on this show is offered as entertainment, and the views of the guests may not always represent the ideas and viewpoints of the host. That's me. Amy does not intend or hold herself out to provide professional advice or recommendations of any kind. In the end, you and you alone need to make those kinds of decisions based on your personal and individual situation, needs, circumstances, and comfort level.